Okay, so now we are on chapter 3 on the methodology, and the methodology will be a long chapter. It's because there are many things that we need to discuss. We have two methods, the quant and the qual, and this course is on research methods, so and this is maybe the most important part to discuss in a way. So first of all, again, this is the suggested structure because it covers key aspects. And we start with the research philosophy. So I think we had this lecture, it was the second lecture, I think, where we discussed the philosophical assumptions that backed up the methodological choices. So please discuss this. I think one long paragraph is enough, like a big paragraph where you state like we assume that the global mindset is something that is subjective in a way, but is also objective because it could be quantified. So based on that, that is the ontology. We want to create knowledge that is both subjective but also objective because we have these two approaches. And then connected to that, we will do a mixed method approach where we collect data through surveys, quantitative data, and analyze it with statistics. And we will collect interview data through interviews, subjective data, and we will analyze it with thematic analysis. And your approach, I think, for all of you, it will be abductive because that's why you have a good literature review because you have a good understanding of the theory, and then you overlap with the empirics. That's the abductive approach. And then maybe discuss in more detail how the methodology is connected to that. So I think one long paragraph or two paragraphs is a good idea for this 3.1. Then 3.2, I think a suggestion is to divide 3.2, the data collection, in two kind of subsections. One for the quant part and one for the qual. If you take a look at the questions, you need to explain how did we constructed the survey. And you need to be transparent on that. We did it all together. We had a workshop. We based the questions on previous research. I kind of put it together, like you kind of helped me to fix the questions, but I put it together. I sent it to you. You did first everything on your own, checking for any issues. There was no issues, but that is actually the testing of the survey when you first answer to the survey. And then after that, you send it to other students. And then in the end, we collected 302. And then also explain like how is the like, why how did you select this type of individuals to answer to the survey, and also discuss a little bit about the survey. And in that discussion about the survey, please include what we have in what we had from workshop one. Do you remember in workshop one you explained about the questions that we were going to ask, where we get it from? So copy paste that and put it at the end of the data collection. So just explain like this is how we constructed the survey, and these are the questions that we used. So just copy paste from the workshop one, that discussion on the dependent variable, independent, and the controls, copy paste that and the references and put them in here. And then you have how did you collect the qualitative data? It's more or less the same thing, but with the qualitative data. Explain what you did about the questionnaire. How did you conduct the interview, if it was in Zoom or if it was in person? How did you find the right person? Why do you think these two people are good to be interviewed? And discuss it in there. I think you can also include the questionnaire as an appendix, maybe because it's long, so maybe it's not as good as the survey. In the survey, you can copy paste the workshop one thing, but maybe the questionnaire, the interview guide could be too long, so maybe put it in an appendix. That's for data collection. And then for data analysis, explain for the quant part is the same thing. You need to divide it quant and qual. Explain from the quant part everything that we did in the workshop 3. So it's like first we put everything in Excel, we coded the data, we translated from letters or words like yes or no or master's, bachelor to numbers. We cleaned the data, making sure that there were no strange numbers. And then we use SPSS to do the analysis, and we calculated or we created the descriptive tables, the regression matrix, and the linear regression model, and that will be discussed in findings. That's it. So I think maybe data analysis, you don't need that much, maybe one or two paragraphs. I think data collection is much more, I think. And then for the data analysis part of the qualitative is what you will learn in the workshop 4 with Victoria. So how did you handle the data? Like how do you code the transcripts? Did you use colors? Did you create that data structure? You will learn that in workshop 4. So reveal that. I also think you need like one or two paragraphs to discuss that. And then it comes to section 3.4. It's about trustworthiness. We had a 3.4 and 3.5. We have a lecture on these two topics. So go back to the slides and double check these concepts: internal validity, external validity, reliability, and objectivity, and discuss how did you make sure that our research has these things. So internal validity of the quant study, external validity as well, the reliability. I think in here you can discuss the Cronbach alpha, for example. In the internal validity, you can discuss the robustness, because we did 3 models, for example. In the objectivity, as I mentioned, is a bit more difficult to state it, because you don't have like a specific number that tells you. I mean, for reliability, you can say the alpha Cronbach was point whatever. But for objectivity, you just need to state like this study was done without bias or like personal agenda. And then the same thing for qualitative research. So maybe another paragraph where you discuss how are you sure about credibility, transferability, dependability, conformability. So also take a look at the uh, lecture, so you come back and then reflect on how you make sure that you have this. Or not only say you have it, explain how you are sure that you have it. And finally, the ethical concerns. I think here you don't need a lot, maybe one paragraph or one long paragraph is enough, or maybe two. So explain how did you gain consent. For the quant part is very easy, because we have literally the question and then they say, yes, I agree. We only use people who answer, yes, I agree. Also, how do you handle the data? I mean, like just explain that everything was kept on like in the cloud uh, storage, and it's everything kind of defended with a password, this kind of thing. So just discuss that. If you're in the qualitative part, if the interviewees don't want to reveal their names, also explain how you make sure that they are anonymized. And so everything that we also discuss in that lecture about ethical aspects, discuss it in here, right? And that's it. That's the method part. I mean, it's going to be long, but at the same time, you also have a lot of things. You have this long discussion on data collection in the quantitative one that you can just copy paste. You also have the interview guide that you can copy paste. Also in here, it's a long discussion, but I think for this assignment, you can write one long paragraph is enough for the research philosophy. If we take a look at what was done in the other assignment, I think, yeah, you can see research philosophy, they discuss several things, but again, I think they are missing some important references as well. I mean, they explain what they did, but maybe you need to also use references. Then in data collection, I think they did a good job overall. As anything, it can be improved. I think you have more, I think, because they didn't include the control variables. That's also another kind of mini flaw that you can improve, include the discussion on the control variables. And then data analysis. I think they did first the quant. I don't know if they have the qualitative. Yeah, I have qualitative here. Data analysis, as I said, I think here is where they discuss the control variables, but maybe you can also include it in here with the references. And then trustworthiness they discuss. Again, I think super important to include references for trustworthiness. I think you have that. You have many references to include. And ethical concerns. The same thing, I also think they could have added some references for that. But that's it. I think we can stop in here. I think maybe next week we can catch up with the next chapters, the findings, the conclusion, and the discussion. But so far, I think you should aim to be more or less done until here, I think by the end of the week, because You will also have the findings, and maybe next week you can focus on writing the findings. But that's it for this video number 3.